So imagine in a world where the SEC creates bots to be your board, or
Oh my God.
the shareholders create bots to represent them as their board member, as their elected board members. Because the theory being, I don't know if the theory is actually true, but the theory being, it can be totally objective and not have, right, and fall within
I think you've
its
just
remit.
come up with a product. Hey, welcome to episode 3 of our little podcast. I am so excited to announce today that episode 3, we finally come up with a name, and that name is a tie-in to Monday Night Football. We record on Monday nights, and it's sort of an homage to that, or homage to that. We've been doing this since 1991, and hopefully we will do it for as many years into the future as well. But the name is Armchair Quarterbacks, which ties us into football and also allows us to stand back and second guess a whole bunch of decisions that other people made, which is always fun. And also gives you an opportunity to second guess a bunch of the stupid shit that we've done through our careers and our lives. So Armchair Quarterbacks, soon we will have a domain, email, a place to store these things. You will be able to find us. Hopefully you will give us some feedback and some suggestions and ideas. So it feels like we're brand fresh, new, and legit now that we have a name.
Too legit to quit?
Oh my God. Okay.
I was going to say, because, welcome to the 80s and 90s.
All right. You will likely recall that we are starting each episode out with what during the prior week did we do cool with AI. So we'll start there, and then we will get to really the meat of the episode a little bit after that. So, Richard.
Yeah. Cool. What did I do that was cool? I feel like I use it every single day, and I can't often say that what I did was cool or unique or special. I absolutely use AI as staff, particularly research staff and writing staff, because I'm not a good writer and I would rather have someone else do research. So an example is literally today, where I have a client. They're in the first stages of doing an offering. They sent me an email they want to send to a group of warm investors that they have lined up about the offering. And so it was, a couple of paragraphs of, thank you and whatnot. We're doing this raise, and here's how much. Here are some particulars. This is not an offering, but stay tuned. And so I noticed that there was a couple of spots where the way he referred to the offering made me think, oh, he's made a decision about one path versus another. And I couldn't quite remember, oh gosh, was that Rule 506B or 506C? Or is that in fact the difference that I'm talking about? A SEC regulation on the information you need to get from your investors to prove their accreditation.
Hold on just a minute.
Yeah, take a drink. So my point being, it was an esoteric thing that I was like, I ain't doing that research, right? What is like, what are the rules around accreditation? What are the differences depending on whether the type of raise or not? And I got an answer right away. And it was, what's neat is if you're already knowledgeable enough to be dangerous, then you can evaluate the answers you're getting and decide if you're getting a good answer or if you're getting not a good answer, right? So if you know enough to be dangerous, the old concept of, don't be a jack of all trades, be a master of one. Like now I think that's flipped. Like go ahead and be a jack of all trades, because then you know something about a lot of things,
Right.
and then use these large language models to get the extra depth that you need.
Yeah.
So my job is to know something about a lot of things, and then I use the deep research.
Where you can kind of rationalize the response, right?
Yeah,
You don't get duped
you can
by
evaluate it. Yeah.
a hallucination.
And depending on how you write the prompt, I've had people come back and say, "Oh, Richard, well, clearly you don't need this level of accreditation information for people." And it's like, yeah, but that's because you wrote the question that way. And ChatGPT in particular always agrees with you and then tries to prove you right.
Unless you prompt it not to.
Unless you prompt it not to. Exactly right. So it all comes down to the prompt. So in that, and then I wasn't really happy with, so I did the research to make sure that I understood kind of what was going on and what he had to say and not have to say in this paragraph to potential investors. And then the second part is I read it and it could be improved, right? And so I said, hey, take this paragraph and write it Richard style, right? Which is a little bit more cheeky, but still professional. Then give me a version that is really legal friendly, like much more legalese, and then give me one that's very marketing friendly, much more emotionally driven. So intellectually driven and emotionally driven, and then Richard in between. And I sent him all three versions, and I'm like, I'm not saying your version is bad. I merely offer this language to you in case you like some of it. Because half the time I'm like, ooh, I like this paragraph and I like that paragraph and I like this paragraph. So I do have ChatGPT write things for me multiple ways so that I can kind of
That's smart.
navigate the exact language that I like.
Yeah, super smart.
Anyway, that's my version for this week.
That's good. That's a great use. And it prompted me to tell this story. We have a client, and a client that is interested in us quoting a project. So we talked to the dev team and we talked to the designers, and we decided this was a 180-hour project. And sent that quote off to the client, and client immediately wrote back, I can't afford that. We're not going to do it. And part of what needs to happen with this particular project is to take a bunch of code that's already been written and migrate it onto a different code framework. And that plus writing the APIs to connect the front end that we're going to design to the back end and a bunch of the logic back there, we estimated was going to take 2 weeks. So I get this estimate from the dev team. I send it off to the client. Client says no. I talked to my head of development, and you'll recall from last week's episode that I have tasked every single member of the team to use AI every day as deeply as they can. And the head of dev used Claude in this case and prompted Claude to do the migration from React to Vue.js and Vuetify. And what we thought would be a 2-week process, and that, by the way, we quoted as a 2-week process, got completed in about 3 hours.
That's less.
That is so much less.
That's less.
So send the quote to the client. Client says no. I still have the email open from him on, and I'm writing a response to explain why this is a 180-hour project when I hear from our head of dev that, hey, by the way, it's
already done.
This 2-week project is now has taken 3 hours. And by the way, he grabbed our designer to read through the code, and the designer was like, "That is really clean code. It looks fantastic." So I was able to go back to the client and go, that 180 hours is now cut in half. We still have design time that we need. So phenomenal. I mean, just what a huge win for the client who wasn't going to be able to have this project. And for us that, we're able to serve that client so much less expensively and so well. It's mind blowing, but not the story I wanted to tell.
Before you get off that story, I think it's important. My first thought when I heard that story was, oh dear God, how do you go back to a client and say,
Yeah.
whoops, the number's half.
Yeah.
And I loved your answer.
Yeah. Thank
so
you.
Please answer that question.
Yeah. I appreciate that. So it's going to be a little longer response than you were probably thinking. I live my life by 3 core values. Honesty. I always tell the truth, even when nobody's looking, even when it's inconvenient, even when it's likely to hurt me. Integrity. I try to do the right thing as I define it, not as the rest of the world defines it, 100% of the time. That one doesn't always work out, but I aspire to it. And transparency. Nobody should ever question what I'm thinking or, kind of where I'm going. I try to be transparent in everything I do, and these core values have translated to be part of the company's core values as well. So, we provided this quote. It was 180 hours to the client, and the client says can't do it. So now I'm able to, because of this technology, I'm able to reduce the quote by half. And how do I go back transparently? So I just went back, I explained the situation, and there's a hilarious story here. I went back and I explained the situation, how it happened, and that, now we're able to do it for half. And the client, just by the way, has said, great, go as fast as you can and get it done. The AI that we used was Claude. And in my email to the client, I referred to Claude and the AI, and the client responded back, "Who's Claude?" So, just a reflection that not everybody's quite as deep into AI or as AI nerdy as I in particular am. And maybe that's a nice transition to this story. So my answer to the question, what's the coolest thing I did with AI this week? I created a VP of sales. So there's a number of selling frameworks that we use. The one that I'm interested in right now is NEPQ. And I've trained an AI, I don't want to call it an agent, but assistant profile. I don't know what the right word is. In NEPQ, pretty in depth. So it's able to coach and respond. And again, we talked about this a little bit last week, but now I actually have a VP of sales, and ChatGPT is connected to our HubSpot instance. So it can look at our pipeline and talk about velocity and ICP and close rates and ROI. I mean, the VP of sales is recommending tactical approaches to the market and how to speed up deals and increase close rate. It is fantastic. It's giving great advice so far. I am just so happy about that. So those are 2 things I did. The other thing that I did, and this is related to the podcast, is it was probably ChatGPT, may have been Gemini. I had one LLM give me a bunch of logos for the podcast, and it came up with a pretty good logo. I didn't tell you this. I had it look at your website. I had it look at my website. I said, use those for inspiration and come up with a logo that's pertinent to our audience and to us. And it came up with, gave us 4 pretty good options. So that was the other cool thing that I did with AI this week.
Yeah, on that, I just wanted to, I thought I could find it. So you can see, I have a picture of me in a jacket that Brenda took at home. And I had a client ask, hey, Richard, can I get a headshot of you to put into a deck? And I said, sure. let me see what are all the other pictures looking like? And they all were done, of the rest of the management team, were done in a building that looked like it had, glass windows and doors and whatnot. Like it was a modern glass office looking space. So I fed in my picture, I fed in their pictures, and I said, make a picture of me with the same background. And it looks great. It looks like I was in the shoot with them.
Oh my God,
it looks like
insane.
I was in the shoot with them. I'll have to show you that.
I'd love to see it.
Yeah, I look like I'm in the shoot with them.
That's crazy. Wow.
I'll find it later. Anyway, but onward.
All right. Well, so that's what we've done cool with AI this week. It's saved us 2 weeks at least. So super excited about that. All right. Armchair quarterbacks. I mentioned at the top the connection to Monday Night Football. We're going to kick off sort of this organized, shiny new name and episode 3 with our primary question today. And that question is, what can NFL coaching teach us about building and managing a business team?
I would love to spend more time with the question to think about, and this isn't me avoiding the question, I will come back, but I want to, and maybe it's a challenge to the audience as well, to think about that question in the context of what is similar about great coaches, meaning to each other, and then is there dissimilarities, right? If you bunch up all the great coaches together, are there some things that pop out as common? And then if you've got your pile of good coaches and your pile of bad coaches, are there things that pop out between them that are different? Sure, and I would love to think about that. And I haven't had the time, so you don't get that thinking today. So stay tuned. Give me your thoughts, but also stay tuned. Maybe some other time I can come back and think about that. Go ahead.
What if we task ChatGPT to try to group the winningest coaches and the least winningest coaches in the last 30 years and see if it can pull together? It would be a really interesting exercise.
Yeah, and there's going to be some differences in terms of, like, when you think about college coaches and the fact that their motivational styles, their styles don't always work at the professional level. And a lot of times you hear the professional football players talk about, like, well, he can't talk to me that way, and he's now dealing with men, not boys, right? And so it's like, oh, was it a more dictatorial style in college that clearly doesn't work when you're dealing with highly paid professionals?
Yeah.
And so the question there is, I think when I think in terms of leaders, there's like what their responsibility is, where's, hows, and do's. We can talk about that. But in this case, I want to think more in terms of like leadership, management, accountability. Like, what is there? I'm always bucketizing stuff. That's how I understand the world. So the buckets I'm trying to use today are leadership, management, and accountability. And I know I stole that from somewhere. Someone point out where I stole it from. Nothing I say is original. Leadership-wise, right, there's the general Patton, there's something in between, and there's Gandhi, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I think more college coaches end up being more the general Patton style, right? Kick them in the butt, right? General Patton got reprimanded for literally kicking someone in the hiney that he thought was not being aggressive enough, and it was someone that was in like a hospital or whatever and didn't want to go back to the front, and so it thought he was a sissy, and literally kicked him for being so. And then there's Gandhi, who would never do that, who's all about motivating people from their highest place, right? So this is Maslow's hierarchy. So motivating people from their highest place. And so college football coaches, from a leadership perspective, the professionals, they have to use emotion, and I see them use emotion like, hey, the so-and-so said such and such about us. That's gonna, like, we're not gonna let them say that to us, are we? But I also see them using numbers more and more and making objective-based decisions.
So are you talking about college football coaches
Good point.
Or pro?
I'm talking about
what's common.
What's common between them both.
Yeah,
I think they lean on, like, they can. You end up more one way versus the other way in the spectrum, right? There's differences within that spectrum, but I think in general, they surprising number of decisions and people's motivation comes from an emotional place. So you always have to have an emotional trigger. I wonder if, like, the head coach of the Miami Dolphins, he seems very intellectual, on top of it completely, and they think they're 0-3 right now. I think they lost again. So I think that's a case where, very good with the numbers, very good intellectual coach, probably is making discrete decisions, but the talent is so even at that level that it's the X factor that differentiates players and teams. And so I don't know.
So here's the thought I had as you were talking, that in college, right, these are high school kids high school people moving up into college.
Yeah.
They have a lot left to learn.
Yeah.
Now, NFL players also have a lot left to learn through most of their careers, right? You get to be a veteran, and and then your highest use is to turn to the rookies and bring them along. But so college coaches are doing a lot of teaching still, even if they have an immensely talented player, you still need to teach them the position, how to play the game, right? Overall, like just how to be a football player,
Mm-hmm.
And how to play within a system. So whereas in high school, an individual player may have been able to completely dominate their league because it's a smaller pond.
Mm-hmm.
As you move up into the pros, there's probably less of that teaching. Still a lot of teaching, but you get to the veterans and less so. And I was just thinking about, so the Kansas City Chiefs are started off the season 0-2. They had lost 3 games in a row, which they hadn't done for many years. Patrick Mahomes maybe hadn't done as a pro. And Travis Kelce, who I'm interested in because I listened to the New Heights podcast with him and his brother Jason. I've kind of been watching him and listening to them on the podcast, but watching him on the sidelines, and he is losing his mind on the sidelines. So the coach is not only coaching this team, but now he has this group of senior players that are in his own way, right? It's trying to motivate the team and fire up the team as well. And the Chiefs happened to win this weekend, and you could see I could see on Travis Kelce his demeanor change when he won, just as he walked off the field, like all this tension and angst drained, and off he walked. So.
So on the leadership side, I think it still has a strong emotional component. I think it still, even when dealing with professionals, there still is an X factor. It doesn't mean your style-wise in that leadership has to be kick them in the ass style-wise, but there is how do I get the most out of this person? And I think in our very first podcast, I mentioned Pete Carroll talking about Tyler Lockett, talking to Tyler Lockett. And it's that, right? Some way they're able to, through their own charisma, talking style, abilities with humans, be able to get the best out of people. I see that as leadership. On the management side, like, to be a head coach, that's a thing. Like, this is it's not just 53 folks. You've got all the assistant coaches. You've got dealing with the owners, right? You've got your own board of directors, right, as it were.
Oh, the fans. Oh my God.
You've got the customers to deal with.
Yeah.
You've got the back office to deal with, probably, right? I mean, there's a GM, sure, but you have to at least deal with that. You've got your own sets of bosses. That snake has more than one head, and then you've got 53 professionals plus the backup team. It's not called a backup team. The development team, development squad. That is so. There's a bunch of professionals that you have to deal with as well. That is a real management effort. And my guess is that good coaches are going to be good at that as well. And in terms of even within the squad of professionals, you've got offense, you've got defense, you've got special teams. And they say you got to be good at two if you want to be a winning team, right? And everyone always puts special teams at the end. Seattle Seahawks this year are doing fantastic on the special team side. I think this past weekend, blocked punt and
The
return.
The Eagles blocked 2 field goals and won the game as a result of special teams this weekend.
Yeah, so I wonder if, especially with these new rules, like on kickoffs, where, back in the day, kickoff goes in the end zone, they take a knee, it comes out to the 20-yard line. Your choice of plays to run when you are when you're on your own 20-yard line is less than when you're on your 35. I believe that to be true.
Yeah.
I've never been a coach in professional football, oddly enough.
Not yet.
But my strong suspicion is the number of plays in your playbook that can be run when you're at your 35 versus when you're at your 20 are different. Yeah. You still have all the long plays available, but there's some plays you don't want to risk yet, right?
Right.
The new rules where taking a knee or even running it out, there's a strong chance you're going to get well beyond the 20. More likely, I think they're averaging probably the 35 right now, 30, 35. That means that theoretically, offensive coordinators have more of their book open now. And so when thinking about the management aspect, right? So we talked about leadership management. You've got far-flung operations. How much attention are you going to give to each segment, including the 3 major portions of just your operating team? And then inside of that, how have the rules changed to change how you manage the game? I bet there's correlations there that I would love to unpack.
Yeah, I'm certain there is. And the team around a head coach that helps him, all the position coaches, all the defensive coordinator, the offensive. So
the coordinators, the coaches, it's a big group.
One of the things that strikes me is, and I think this is one of the most critical aspects and talents that honestly any manager has, and that extends to the leader or the CEO of a company or the head coach of a team, is building the right team around you. So It is not just Pete Carroll now at the Raiders, but all of the people that support him, his inner circle, need to be aligned. They need to be the right people. They need to be pushing in the right direction. They need to be,
understand what the priorities are, understand how to deal with the small stuff so that you're not dealing with the small stuff because you don't have time for that. Right.
Yeah. So that hiring the right team and developing a culture that is aligned, I think is, I definitely see it as, and I think I harped on this last episode. I see it as one of our unique values at Integrate IQ is the culture that we have, and the culture in the leadership team. We all are quite aligned.
Yeah, you took that last part of the conversation to lean into culture, which is absolutely true. And to me, I would be more specific. Which gets me to my A, the accountability, leadership management accountability. Being a manager, a coach that's holding people to that level of accountability.
Mm.
It is your culture, right? So I
Yeah.
get your point. Like, I'm not disagreeing with your point.
Yep.
I get your point that is a cultural aspect, not necessarily a discrete thing. But if you make it like I'm making it an explicit thing and saying, having a leader who understands, enforces and reinforces accountability, including cultural. I think that's the third piece of that puzzle. So, going back to where you were saying, letting, because you can't do everyone's job for them, whether it be the back office, the way you said it was knowing that people are moving in the same direction.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And just knowing that. How do you know that?
Yeah.
I personally know that because I hold people accountable to the things that they say they're going to do, and being that in that direction. Like, hey, we agreed that we're going that direction. If you don't go that direction, you and I will have a discussion. And it's not about kicking their butt. It's about holding them accountable.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the alternative is to do their job for them, or to try to enforce some weird level of policy mishmash. I don't like, that's what accountability looks like at GE. And that's not a business I prefer to be in.
Matrixed organizations.
Right? Where like accountability has really been sort of thrown onto policies, and then you get memos all the time telling you how and what to do. That's not accountability.
Yeah.
Anyway, so leadership, management, accountability. I would love to do a study to see what's common about those that are good and what's dissimilar between those that are good and those that are not good. And we will do that research and get back to you. Well, like I said, nothing interesting or unique.
Okay.
I use it. It is my research and writing staff.
That's what I'm going to talk about. Thank you.
Yeah.
Because I made some board members. Okay. I made some board members.
Oh, okay.
And a new VP of sales.
Yes. So I think where your thinking is unique, I think where your thinking is above where other people thinking is. That doesn't necessarily mean unique. I think it's a higher level. Is you actually flip the script. And what I mean by that is I think it's very natural for us to want to find staff. I think it's very natural for us to use these services to replace staff, or to make our weaknesses or the things we don't want to do better,
take a burden,
right?
Yeah.
Lighten our load, or be our helper.
Yeah.
Right. And if you think about every robotics movie ever made, it was about making an assistant, and usually then the assistant goes crazy and kills us. But it was about making an assistant, not making a boss. And so I think that is actually a really unique prism to look at it. Not just unique version, but like a whole different way of seeing the light, is to say how, like, making a boss, like what would a boss look like? What would an advisor look like? What would a mentor look like? Rather than what would a staff look like, right? So it has broken open my thinking, as I told you last time, about trying to mimic a hard to read boss in order to, right? But I actually then did it explicitly. I haven't done it yet, but thought about it explicitly in terms of, well, why not a boss? So imagine in a world where the SEC creates bots to be your board, or
oh my God,
the shareholders create bots to represent them as their board member, as their elected board members. Because the theory being, I don't know if the theory is actually true, but the theory being, it can be totally objective and not have, right, and fall within its remit.
I think you've just come up with a product. like a no shit, honest to God, fantastic product. A company that creates board members for
Publicly held companies.
not just publicly held companies, but also publicly
Yeah.
held companies. That's a good idea.
Like someone that you know will represent you and make decisions in a solely an objective way.
Yeah. Imagine in regulated
Exactly. Any
industries,
regulated industry.
to having an objective third party. Wow, that is a good idea.
How should the populace feel about Seattle City Light raising their utility rates? Let's go to the utility board and have them decide. Utility board is getting money under the table, is got to scratch other people's backs, got to do whatever. Now, I'm sure there's a way to bastardize a digital employee as well as a human
It's
employee.
created by a third party.
But I'm thinking, and that's why I said, what if the SEC told you who your board members were?
Man, that's a good idea. I love
But
that.
this all started with you flipping the script.
Yeah.
I would never have, that wasn't, all robotics throughout time are about making a helper, not making a boss.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's just the way mankind thinks. I want a beast of burden.
I wanted an advisor. So,
Right.
I mean, that's...
But I'm just saying that is unique.
Yeah.
That's a unique aspect.
So
So
that's cool.
anyway, let's do it. Let's make a company that makes those
That's
bots.
a really good idea. I love it. That's probably a good place to call it. Cheers, all. See you in episode 4.